Hello, and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I make scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. Today, I am working with the Nostalgia Kit from MercyTiara Kits, and I'm going to be using this sketch that was part of our monthly challenge for the month of February. And I'm starting by picking out some pattern papers that I would like to work together here for this page. And I am choosing from the scraps that I have. I've already used this kit for several different layouts at this point. And I've chosen some of my very favorite pattern papers to use in this, which I think will be my last for a while, layout that I create with the Nostalgia Kit. So I have chosen those butterfly patterns from that butterfly pattern paper from Simple Stories. And I also have that blue, really beautiful floral, also from Simple Stories. And then I've also chosen this yellow paper, which is from Vicky Bouton. All of these came in the kit. And I am going to chunk these up into pieces. And I'm going to follow the sketch fairly closely for this layout. And this layout ends up being a fairly fast and easy layout for me to do. And it's a really nice way to use up some of my scraps and get some of my favorite papers into my album. So I started by making all of these papers at the same length so that I can put them together in different proportions. And so I'm starting with them all at the same length, and I'm just eyeballing it. I can't remember exactly what length they are, but they're more than 6 inches. I wanted the top layer, like the top part of this grid. So the sketch requires a grid of pattern paper on the background. And I wanted the top part to be more than half of the page. So I can't remember exactly how much I made it be, but it's just more than 6. So I started by deciding that for that really bright blue paper, that would be my smallest piece. And then the yellow would be my medium, my next smallest piece, and then this butterfly pattern will be the biggest piece. And I did put the yellow in between the floral and the butterfly pattern for a reason, because those two patterns are quite strong, and right next to each other, I felt like it would be a little bit too much. So I decided to separate them with that yellow pattern, which is a pattern, but it's more of a tone-on-tone pattern. So it reads a little bit more as a solid. I am using one of my favorite Pitt pens. This is a Faber-Castell Pitt pen. The color is called Indanthrine Blue, and I love it. It's like a beautiful purpley bluey outline color, and I just love it. So I'm outlining all of my papers in this Indanthrine Blue. It's just a little bit softer than using a black pen here. And I will outline all 3 of these chunks. I am doing all of this layout on the background is a piece of cardstock from the cardstock add-on from the Nostalgia Kit. And it's a beautiful, really light pink color. And now I want another 2 blocks down here on the bottom, and I would like to use this green floral because it picks up on some of the greens that are in those butterflies. And then I'll also use this minty greeny turquoisey color as well. And the minty greeny turquoisey color with the dots, that's also from Simple Stories. And that one will serve as the cell that will hold my journaling piece. So like with the top cells, I'm just going to cut the bottom cells so that they are a specific height so that they will fill that space in the bottom corner. And I am just using a piece of 4x6 paper here. It's actually a little 4x6 index card to size my piece here so that a 4x6 photo will fit very nicely on it. So that's how I determined how long it would be, because I want it to fit a 4x6 photo. And then I just layered the 2 of them together to make sure that they're the same size. It's an easy way to make sure that they're the same size without measuring. And then I just cut that turquoisey minty green piece to be the length that it needs to be to fill in the rest of that space and still have the little edges of pink showing around the outside edge. Now, with a sketch like this, you don't have to follow it exactly. I could have made these squares in all different types of configurations as far as sizes. But the idea here is that you have these 5 different cells on the background, and then you do your layering and your embellishing on top. So I added the outlining around the outside edges of those pieces as well. And as you can see with that white index card, that piece is going to hold my photo quite nicely. Now, I would love to use one of these paintbrushes, and my thought here is that the paint on the paintbrush might be the place that holds my title. And my title will have to be pretty small if I do that, like a short title. I do want to use those foam letter stickers from Cool Boy. They came in the kit and they're really, really beautiful. And I really want to use them. So I am, as I fussy cut out this paintbrush with the mint paint on it, I am giving some thought to what my title might be. So I'm just using my precision scissors to cut around some of these little more detailed edges. And I'm going to follow a lot of these paint splats, but not all of them. I think that these paintbrushes look really beautiful when they're fussy cut so that all of the little splats are showing. But I also wanted to, like showing as in our cutout specifically, but I also wanted to experiment with how this would look if I didn't cut it all the way out, but just cut it partially. Because not everybody is into fussy cutting. I'm not too much into fussy cutting. I don't love doing it. But sometimes I think it's worthwhile. So I'm going to cut down the length of some of these little drips of paint, and some of them I'm just going to leave the white showing so that it's not necessarily fussy cut all the way. And I think that that looks pretty good. And I wouldn't know until I did it, right? So if I did it and ended up not liking it, all that I would have done is just said, okay, well, I'll just cut them all out though. I will cut them all out then. I'm getting a little tongue-tied as I narrate this one. So it turns out that I like it just fine with those pieces of white in between some of the drips like that. Now, ideally, I actually want this title to go this way. Like I want this paintbrush to go this way, but it really doesn't make sense because it's a partial paintbrush. The top of it is cut off because of the way that it was on the pattern paper. And so I'm actually not going to leave it like this. I'm going to flip it around. So I am actually doing this one backwards from how I usually do. Usually I start off with a photo, but for this one, I started off with the page foundation. And now I'm looking for a photo that will work on this page, both in terms of the story that I want to tell in the space that I'll have, which is mostly that dotted turquoise paper, and also thinking about what kind of a title I want and wanting it to be a fairly small title. So I'm playing around with a couple of different options here. That's my sister's wedding. I'm ultimately going to go with this beautiful photo of Annabelle and Sophie at Hopewell Rocks. This was one of the first trips that we took with last year's international students. So this photo is more than a year old now. And I might have scrapbooked it. I know that I put it in my Project Life album, but I'm not sure that I documented a 12 by 12 page about this particular photo. So I'm going to go ahead and perhaps re-scrap it if I've already covered it on a 12 by 12, but I'm pretty sure I haven't. So I'm just going to place that photo right there. And still thinking about the title, and I'm going to, while I think about that title, just use my fingernails to pull up the edges of all of these papers. And this just adds some really beautiful texture. When you see the photos at the very end of this video, you'll be able to see just how much of a difference this makes as far as adding some really beautiful texture and interest to this page. Now, if you don't like messy, torn up edges like this, you could just leave it flat. That would look great too. But I really love getting as much texture as I can onto a page. And I am thinking that this page probably won't have a whole lot of embellishing on it. It's probably going to be a mostly clean and simple page, meaning this background, a couple of embellishments, a title, and some journaling, and that's it. So not a whole lot of layering. And when I don't have a whole lot of layering, I like to take advantage of whatever layers I do have. So look at that, so pretty. So now I have to think a little bit more about my title. So let's go back to this paintbrush. And the sketch has the title on this cell, meaning the cell that has the butterflies on it. I'm thinking about perhaps switching it around. You don't have to follow a sketch exactly, but I think I'm going to, because leaving the title where it's at, it allows me to have a balance between the title in that place and then the journaling over in that mint turquoise polka dot paper. And so the two of them being diagonal to one another like that provides some nice balance on the page. And then the top of the page becomes basically like a negative space. Although it is filled in with pattern paper, there's not going to be any embellishing up there at all. The only embellishing will be from the paintbrush down. I'm grabbing some of the embellishments that came in the Nostalgia kit, and I would like to find some embellishments that will work with this page. And I'm going to be fairly minimalistic with it, but my first priority is to find something to house my journaling. So I went with this tag from the Simple Stories Memories collection, came in the kit, and it's really cute. It's a little bit more, I guess it's a little bit more distressed than the rest of the page, but I think it looks okay. There are some beiges on this page already. So for instance, the paintbrush has some beige on it where the bare bristles are. And there's lots of beige in the photo itself. And so I'm going to try to make that tag work. And I'm mindful of the fact that it's not 100% just super distressed or anything, but it's just a little bit more vintagey than the other elements on the page. I'm just pulling out a whole bunch of different things. This Simple Stories collection, the True Colors collection, had some paintbrushes with paint on it too. And although it's from a completely different manufacturer, it looks really cute with the other paintbrush. But it turns out I'm not going to use that because it's just a little bit of a different kind of illustration. And also, I think it just feels like it would have been too much. Also, this page isn't even about art or painting or anything like that. So I felt like putting too many paintbrushes on it is sort of like going too far along a theme that isn't really relevant for the page. Now I'm going to cut out some of these butterflies because I really, really love them. And I felt like these butterflies that turn up in that patterned paper in the first cell, those having them show up someplace else is going to give me that repetition that I need to pull the page together. So I am actually going to put two butterflies right here, two because there are two friends in this photo. I have taken the thickers as well while I was chatting. I took the thickers and spelled out the title BFFs. And that is going to be my title. And I'm almost finished fussy cutting these butterflies. It really is worth that extra effort to get those fussy cut because they're just so cute and they're the perfect scale to layer with that label. And that label also comes from the Simple Stories True Colors collection. Now this rub-on that says Adorbs, I just felt like it would look really cute on their elbows there or their arms. And so I'm going to rub that onto the photo and it's going to transfer on quite nicely. And what that does is it brings some pink and yellows into that photo that otherwise is mostly just browns. And it brightens up the photo a little bit and ties the photo in to the other pattern papers and whatnot that are on that foundation. So it pulls in some of that yellow that shows up so prominently in those patterned papers. And now there's a touch of yellow in every single cell. So there's yellow butterflies, there's that big yellow block, there's the flowers that have yellow. Then we have the photo that has yellow in the word adorbs, and there's one yellow butterfly on my cell that holds my journaling. And that again gives me that repetition and pulls the color all the way around the page so that it just feels really cohesive and pulled together. I'm going to just use some string from my stash. This is string that I just keep on my desktop as my generic go-to beige string. I'm stapling it in place with my tiny attacher just for something different. Sometimes I pull it through and loop it, but this time I am just stapling it. I'm using my fingernails to pull up the edges of this journaling piece as well. This journaling piece says memory, and then it has space for a bunch of lines. And I will do some journaling on those lines. I'm going to use my same Pitt pen, the Faber-Castell Pitt pen in Indanthrine Blue. And I'm just going to place this label so that it covers up the part that said date, because I don't want to put the date there. And my journaling here says, these two hit it off right away. This photo was taken in September 22, shortly after Annabelle arrived. We had so much fun. And then on the little pink label, I'm going to put the kind of like a caption that describes the place. And I'm writing Hopewell Rocks, New Brunswick. And I don't have to put the date there because I've already mentioned the date in my journaling. So Hopewell Rocks, New Brunswick, and there we go. Now that will sit right in the center of this cell right here. And then I will place the two butterflies, and I want to pop these butterflies so that their wings are separated up off the page. So I'm taking tiny little pop dots and I'm gluing the bodies of the butterfly flat to the paper, and then having the wings have those adhesive foam underneath of them to hold them up, so that even if this page sits in an album with lots of other pages on it, the wings will continue to be lifted up and give me that nice, beautiful dimension and texture that I'm looking for. So I've decided to commit to placing this paintbrush right here. I'm going to put some foam adhesive on the bottom sides of these little drips of paint as well, just to make them peel off the page a little bit, just to give me, again, a little bit more texture and dimension and lift, and that casts a nice gray shadow that adds a little bit of detail to this page as well. And on a page like this that is very, very minimalistic, every little detail has more impact. So I am taking the time to do things like make sure that some things are popped up and cast shadows and all of those good things. I'm thinking about using one of these cut apart labels, but oh yes, I am. I thought I wasn't, but now I see it. It's hiding. So I'm going to cut this one out. These labels are part of a PDF file that comes with the main kit, and these labels are specifically color coordinated to match with the colors in the kit. I'm going to place this label right there. And I'm also going to put a little bit of this rub-on it. Again, it picks up on that pattern that's up in the top right-hand corner, but it's just a smaller scale of the same pattern. I'm going to cut that off and keep it just in case I can use that. I just love that pattern so much that it's worth hanging on to that extra little bit of transfer just in case I can use it someplace else. That's going to give me just a little something else up here in the corner, and it's going to become a little anchoring point for another extra little embellishment that I haven't decided yet on what it is. But I definitely want something up there. I don't want the only embellishment to be those two little butterflies on the journaling piece. So I grabbed my little basket that I have, or my little container that I have that's filled with all different bows. Some of these bows are bows that came in embellishment sets from different manufacturers. There's some Amy Tangerine ones there. There's some Bella Boulevard ones there. There are some Maggie Holmes. And this one is a paper butterfly, or not butterfly, it's a paper bow. I'm pretty sure it's from Maggie Holmes or something from, it might be from Crepe Paper. But it's a beautiful one, and you can punch these bows. There are punches and die sets, and you could probably get a cut file if you have an electronic cutter. But this is the item from my stash that didn't come from the kit. Now I am selectively picking out the stars that are in the Nostalgia confetti mix. And I'm just placing 2 by the 2 little butterflies and 2 more over here by the bow. And I'm just focusing on pairs here because it's a pair in the photo. So you don't have to do everything in twos all the time. I think that this is a nice sketch. It does have two clusters and my photo has two friends. And so I'm just going to go with the idea of pairs here. Although there's a single bow, which really makes that bow stand out quite nicely. So before I share the photos, just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks help make this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early ad-free access to most of my process videos and real-time unedited versions of my videos, as well as a monthly live stream and some behind-the-scenes videos and more. Thanks also to you for watching, and look at that photo. It looks so cute on that, especially with that mat. It really brings out the green in the photo as well. Here's how the journaling looks with those two adorable little butterflies, and that bow and the title are just so cute. I love this page. It was a joy to make. It was really fun, and I hope that you enjoyed watching this page come together half as much as I enjoyed creating it, because it was a really fun one. And it's one of those layouts, because of the sketch, that you can recreate fairly easily. So head on over to our Facebook group if you haven't already, because the sketch is over there, and have a really great scrappy week.